Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Tide TV This Week. It's brought to you by Renaissance Bank. I'm Chris Stewart, alongside my broadcast partner, Maggie Hetzel. Football week again at the Capstone, always a fun time.
Football's here, football, in some capacity. Spring football. It's still football on a field, and I'm happy about it.
It's the Crimson Tide running out of the tunnel.
I'm
That's
happy.
the main thing.
I'm happy.
We'll see everybody at Bryant-Denny Stadium for the 2019 Golden Flake A-Day game this Saturday.
Yes, it is this Saturday, Chris, April 13th, and is set to kick off at 1 p.m. Central Time. It can also be seen on ESPN2, and it's free admission. And there are multiple great events going on all day. The Coca-Cola Kickoff Zone and Mercedes-Benz Fan Fest area both open at 9 a.m. There will be an autograph and photo session with Jonathan Allen at 10 a.m. Stadium gates also open at 10 a.m. and inside the stadium, the alumni flag football game begins at 10:30 a.m. Walk of Champions is set for 11:50, which will then lead us to that running out of the tunnel kickoff set for 1 p.m. The full schedule and parking and traffic information can be found on rolltide.com. Here's what Coach Saban had to say about the team as they lead up to A-Day.
We have a lot of young players on our team that have a chance to contribute to the team and play winning football. And I think the biggest thing that we've been trying to emphasize with them is the mental part of the game is so important. Your ability to focus, mental intensity, your ability to prepare properly so you know what to do, how to do it, why it's important to do it that way. And we were anxious to see more guys be able to go out there and play with the kind of intangibles that would allow them to play winning football.
Play winning football. They know that pretty well, don't they?
They do indeed.
Now, Chris, let's switch over to baseball.
Sure.
The Tide welcomed in South Carolina for a 3-game series. Hard to believe, but we're about halfway through the SEC schedule already.
Yeah, we've got the midway point coming this weekend after Alabama wraps up at Starkville in Mississippi State this weekend. But excited to see what this squad's going to do for the second half of the SEC schedule. Right now, here's our own Aaron Cooper with a recap of the series against the South Carolina Gamecocks.
Alabama's series against the Gamecocks this weekend delivered 3 hard-fought matchups, beginning with Alabama's dominating doubleheader on Friday. Colby Robinson led the game off with a single, which set him up to score a little later. Morgan McCullough's single shortly afterwards brought in the game's first run. Eventually, Tyler Gentry put 2 on base before Auerbach cleared the bases with a double to left center, making it a 3-0 game through the first inning. The Tide put on 5 runs in the second inning, 4 of them from Gentry's grand slam.
That is deep to left. Touch them all, Tyler Gentry.
The 5th would come from freshman TJ Reeves with his 4th home run of the season.
Hammer that one deep to left. Goodbye.
This would cap everyone scoring, Bama shutting out South Carolina 9-0. In the nightcap, McCullough broke it open for Bama when he came home after Williamson slapped a single to the left. Gentry scored after an Auerbach single.
So get one in for sure.
And Williamson finally brought it in after Trousdale reached first base on a fielder's choice. Alabama up 3-0. The scoring stalled again until the 7th when a solo home run got the Gamecocks on the board. But the Tide came right back with a run of their own in the home half thanks to an RBI single from Williamson that brought McCullough home. The Tide reigned victorious over the Gamecocks again, 4-1.
Really did a much better job offensively at the plate, had strung some really good at-bats together, and just a really good day all the way around for us.
Game 3 proved the Gamecocks weren't going to let Alabama roll over them a 3rd time. South Carolina got out front first, scoring 4 runs by the second inning. Keith Holcomb helped cut the Gamecocks' lead in half after firing it to the right, bringing home Joe Bro and Colby Robinson. Bama tied it up in the 5th, and no one scored the rest of regulation, summoning some extra innings. The Gamecocks finished it up with a run off a wild pitch in the 12th, defeating the Tide 5-4. Although South Carolina swept away Alabama's series sweep, Coach Bohannon said that he was very proud of the way the guys battled it back until the very end. Reporting from Sewell Thomas Stadium for Tide TV, I'm Aaron Cooper.
Thanks so much, Aaron. Next up for the Tide was a midweek matchup with Samford. Chris, you were calling that one. How many times did you say home run, it's gone, something along those lines?
5 times in one inning. Between me and Lee Tracy, we had 9 for the entire game. It was fun. We
It was fun.
enjoyed it.
9 home runs. You can't have a not have a fun game at that point. The Tide headed up I-20 to Birmingham to face off against Samford at Regents Field on Tuesday night. And Chris, it's a park that's known to play very offensive, and it did just that. Luckily in favor for the Tide, though. It was an absolute record-setting night for the Tide. Bama recorded a season-high 19 hits, with 13 of those going for extra bases. The Tide bats notched 9 home runs, 3 doubles, a triple, and a partridge in a pear tree. Everyone got in on the offensive show, with 11 total players recording at least 1 hit against the Bulldogs. 7 of those players contributed to the Tide's 9 homers, the most in a single game since UA's 13 against UAB back on April 14th, 1999. Tide had a huge third inning, posting 13 runs. Chris, how long did that one run for?
A while.
Then added 3 more in the 5th, 4 in the 6th. Tide wins this one big in Birmingham, 21-2.
Yep, freshman TJ Reeves and junior Tyler Gentry each homering twice. Joining them with round trippers Brett Auerbach, Johnny Hawk, Morgan McCullough, along with Tyler Ross and Drew Williamson, who each tallied 1 apiece. Williamson led the Tide in hits, a perfect 3 for 3. He was a double short of the cycle. He also added a team-high 3 runs scored, going with his 2 RBIs and a walk. The duo of Reeves and Auerbach tied for the team lead in RBIs with 4 to cap off the huge offensive night.
Softball is officially halfway through their SEC schedule as well. We're talking their trip to South Carolina and SEC standings when we come back.
Welcome back, everybody. The Alabama softball team was on the road this weekend for another SEC series, and Maggie, the series was quite a test for the Tide.
It was, but with the SEC being one of the top conferences in all of college softball, it's understandable that the ladies can't be perfect. They are pretty close to it, though. Still ranked in the top 25 nationally, sitting at number 5 in the USA Today poll, number 7 in the ESPN.com/USA softball poll. As you mentioned, Chris, let's take a look at this past weekend series for the Tide. The ladies opened the weekend against South Carolina on Friday night at Beckham Field in Columbia. Alyssa Brown and KB Sides led off the game with back-to-back hits, moving runners into scoring position to set up a Kaylee Tao 2-run single back up the middle. Bama stranded runners in scoring position in the 2nd and 3rd innings, unable to add to its 2-0 lead, but kept the Gamecocks at bay through the first 5 innings. In the top of the 6th, junior Claire Jenkins blasted her 11th home run of the season to make it Bama added another in the 6th as a pickoff attempt got away, and then Taylor Clark advanced to score. The Tide then decided to break it open at that point, adding 5 in the top of the 7th, making it a 9-0 game. The Gamecocks erased the shutout with a solo homer in the home half of the 7th, but that would be it. The Tide takes game 1, 9-1.
Yep, and the Tide continued the weekend series on Saturday evening. Now, the Gamecocks took the first lead of the game in the bottom of the 1st, making it 1-0 after 1. Bama loaded the bases with 2 out in the top of the 3rd, but a shallow pop-up got the Gamecocks out of the jam and preserved that 1-0 lead. Carolina adding 1 in the 4th, then doubled its lead again in the bottom of the 5th with a 2-run homer. They tucked on 1 more, setting the game at 5-0. Bailey Hemphill erased the shutout with a solo homer to start the 6th. The Tide couldn't muster a comeback in the final half inning, falling 5-1 to even that series.
The Tide headed into the final game of the series on Sunday afternoon, and Chris, the ladies struggled offensively for the 2nd straight game, going scoreless for the first time this season while leaving 11 runners on base. South Carolina scored its first and only 2 runs of the game off a 2-run homer in the 1st inning, and offensively, Chris, that was just about it for this game. Junior pitcher Sarah Cornell took the loss in the start, throwing 1 1/3 innings, but junior Crystal Goodman held the Gamecock offense in check with a stellar relief effort behind her, throwing 4 2/3 shutout innings and just 1 hit allowed and 6 strikeouts. Great pitching, Chris, but the ladies couldn't get the bats going. The Tide drops game 3 in the series 2-0.
Yeah, Maggie, and the Tide is exactly at the halfway mark through their SEC schedule, and here's where the ladies currently stand after dropping that series. Tide's 38-4 overall, sitting at 8-4 in the conference, currently 2nd in the SEC, just below an 11-4 LSU squad in the league. And Maggie, their remaining 4 SEC series, tough ones, still on the schedule. Kentucky, who's in the middle of the pack, Georgia, Florida, and they finish up their SEC schedule on the road against the top 10 nationally ranked LSU Tigers. Going to be interesting and tough the final few weeks for the ladies.
Chris, we're going to jump out of conference for a minute as the ladies hosted the Georgia State Panthers for a midweek matchup on Wednesday evening after a 7-pitch top of the 1st. Alyssa Brown got the home half started with a single up the middle, and 3 batters later, Jenkins drove her in with an RBI single through the left side, and at that point, it was 1-0, but a Skylar Wallace single later in the inning. The Tide was up 3-0 in the 1st, and then back-to-back errors in the bottom of the 2nd allowed the Tide to tack on another run, but then a couple of Alabama errors themselves in the top of the 4th allowed Georgia State to break into the run column, making it 4-1. The Tide extended their lead by 1 in the 5th, and Crystal Goodman shut down the Panther lineup over the final 2 innings. The Tide takes this one 5-1.
Alyssa Brown setting the table at the top of the order. She goes 2 for 3 with a pair of runs scored and drove in a run on a sacrifice squeeze bunt in the 5th. Junior Claire Jenkins also had a multi-hit game, including an RBI single, while freshman Skylar Wallace knocked in a pair of runs on another first-inning single. Junior Crystal Goodman was sharp in the circle, allowing just 1 unearned run on 2 hits, striking out 4 in the complete game victory. Here's what Coach Murphy had to say about that win.
You know, a game, it kind of like gets the taste out of South Carolina out of your mouth. And, you know, Crystal pitches a great game. She gets an opportunity. Taylor Clark got in, Caroline Hardy got in, Kayla Davis got to play the field, you know, so there was different people that got to play as well. Chloe Anderson gets a start out in left field. We rested Maris tonight, so things like that, that's a positive. You know, they get game experience, and we're going to need everybody down the stretch. So that's probably the biggest positive. People got to play, and Crystal, she pitched 7 innings, and I thought she looked good for 7.
It's officially postseason for Alabama gymnastics. We are talking their trip to the NCAA Regional when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back to Tide TV. Alabama gymnastics headed to Ann Arbor, Michigan for the NCAA Regional this past weekend, Chris.
That they did, Maggie, and the format on postseason gymnastics changing dramatically. It's much tougher to advance to the NCAA championship, so every 10th mattered in this regional for the Tide, and this regional was stacked with multiple talented teams, including the defending NCAA champions, the UCLA Bruins.
It was a tough one, Chris. The number 10 ranked Alabama gymnastics team headed to Ann Arbor for the NCAA Regional round on Friday and Saturday. And as explained last week, there were 3 sessions, including in the regional. The ladies were not in session 1, not one of the 2 teams there, so they started things off in session 2 against host Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State. Top 2 teams of the session would then advance on to the round of 16 for the chance to head to the NCAA championships. Tide started things off on beam, where Emily Gaskins used a career best 9-9 to pace the Tide to a 49-225 team score. They then exploded on the floor exercise behind 9-9s from Abby Armbrecht, Maddie Desch, and Lexi Graber, and then they had an impressive vault rotation before heading to bars. The ladies finished off the session with a season best 49.35 on even bars, which set the ladies up to win the session 2 with a 197-225 to head to the round of 16. Words are hard, Chris.
They are indeed sometimes. The round of 16 featured Michigan, Nebraska, defending NCAA champion UCLA, and Alabama. The Tide got things started on floor with a 49-425 paced by matching 9-9s from Abby Armbrecht and Ari Guerra. The Tide scored a 49-125 on vault, pushed by matching 9-875s from Shalyn Olson and Ari Guerra. On uneven bars, the Tide tallied 49-25 and battled all the way to the end on Saturday, scoring 49-425 on beam to close out the meet and their season as the Tide placed 3rd behind UCLA and Michigan with a 197-275, a fantastic year for the ladies.
It was, Chris. And one of those ladies, Abby Armbrecht, her season's not over just yet. She had an incredible 2 days in Ann Arbor for the Tide, and she's been amazing on floor. Abby had a 9-9 on floor in the round of 16 and posted the same score in session 2. And on her strength of the performance during round 2 of the regional, she was chosen to represent Alabama at the NCAA championships on floor exercise. So good luck to Abby. We are talking one softball senior who had to hop a couple of ponds to come play for Alabama. We have the amazing story of Courtney Geddens coming up next. Stay with us. Welcome back. One of the most bittersweet moments for every college athlete comes on senior day. This is not special not only for the athlete, but for the parents who helped get them where they are today. Let's learn a little more about senior softball player Courtney Geddens and her journey to get to Alabama. It's brought to you by ATI.
Dear Courtney.
Dear Courtney.
We have come to love how passionate you are.
I recall us watching Alabama win the 2012 World College Championship, and you turned around and said to me, "That's the university I'm going to."
How goal-driven and sheer tenacity to overcome whatever challenges you face daily.
And there's the strikeout thrown by Geddens. Got her, and the first strikeout of the game for Geddens ends the ball game.
So I was laughing because I'm like, yeah, I'm American now. New Year's!
With your quirky sense of humour and obvious zest for life, we love what you bring. You are a true reflection of what makes a great teammate.
And here we are at Alabama 7 years on, celebrating your senior day. dreams do come true.
Don't ever change that desire to leave no stone unturned. And as you yourself, Courtney, would say, I've got this.
So Courts, all the best for your senior day. Make sure you have some fun.
Happy Senior Day, Courtney, from all of us. Love you endless, Mum.
Love, Dad.
Fryer hits it off the fifth. Williamson is over. He'll have room. He dives! 3-1 from long. Is lifted in the air towards deep center. Pushing Pinto back. Still back to the track. He leaps, and he got it! Or no, he didn't. It's gone!
Those were our top plays of the week. Now let's take a look at our Payless Drugs Players of the Week.
Yep, we're going to go with Alabama's senior starter Sam Finnerty, selected as the SEC's co-pitcher of the week for his start against the Gamecocks on Friday. Didn't give up a walk, struck out 5, only 79 pitches needed, and got the complete game shutout. This guy's been impressive all season and all career.
And I'm going to go with Abby Armbrecht. She had an incredible 2 days in Ann Arbor, posted a 9.99 floor in the round of 16, and posted the same score in Session 2 of regionals. And she will head to represent Alabama at the NCAA Championships on the floor exercise on April 19th in Fort Worth, Texas. I'm excited to watch Abby.
She will be outstanding.
Now let's take a look at our next week's schedule for the Crimson Tide, brought to you by Renaissance Bank.
It is indeed women's golf on the road Friday and Saturday at the Liz Murphy Collegiate Classic in Athens. Track and field hosting the Crimson Tide Invitational at home all day on Friday. Women's tennis hosting Arkansas Friday night at 5. Baseball on the road in Starkville. 3-game set against Mississippi State Friday through Sunday.
Softball welcomes in Georgia for a 3-game series Saturday through Monday. Game times can be found on RuralTide.com. 2019 Golden Flake A-Day game is this Saturday. Kickoff is set for 1 p.m. Women's tennis continues the weekend on Sunday as they welcome in Missouri at 1 p.m. Men's golf makes a quick trip up to I-20 for the Shoal Creek Invitational on Monday and Tuesday. And round out the schedule, some midweek baseball on Tuesday as the Tide takes on UAB at 6:30 p.m. Thanks for watching another episode of Tide TV this week.
We'll see you next week, everybody. Roll Tide.